The surprising benefits of watching real sex, Cindy Gallop. Have you ever noticed how, as we get older, people seem to think we stop caring about intimacy? It's as if the world assumes that after a certain age, we just fold up that part of ourselves and tuck it away. But here's the truth: desire, connection, and curiosity don't have an expiration date. Our bodies may change, yes, but the need for touch, closeness, and even excitement in the bedroom is just as real at 60, 70, and beyond as it was in our younger years. Now, I want to talk about something that might raise a few eyebrows: watching real sex. Not the glossy, over-the-top version you might find in most adult films, but real intimacy between real people. And before you shake your head or think, "That's not for me," hear me out. Because what Cindy Gallop and others are helping people see is that this isn't about something seedy or shameful. It's about learning, inspiration, and even empowerment. Here's why this matters. When most of us grew up, sex wasn't talked about openly. Maybe you got a little birds and bees talk from your parents. Or maybe you learned bits and pieces from friends who didn't really know much themselves. And when it came to relationships later in life, especially long-term ones, things often became routine. Sometimes that routine is comforting, but sometimes it quietly dulls our curiosity. And before we know it, we've stopped exploring altogether. But watching real sex, authentic, unedited, and often between people who aren't actors at all, can reignite something we thought had faded. It's not about comparing yourself to someone else. It's about seeing intimacy in its honest form and realizing there are still so many ways to connect, touch, and feel pleasure that you may never have tried or haven't thought about in years. One of the surprising benefits is education. We live in a culture where sexual education, especially for older adults, is almost non-existent. We're told how to manage our blood pressure, how to eat more fiber, how to exercise for bone health, but no one is talking about how to keep intimacy alive and satisfying in our later years. Real, respectful sexual content can act as a kind of learning tool. It shows you what's possible, how bodies interact, and how couples communicate through touch, eye contact, and movement. For someone who's been with the same partner for decades, or even someone starting over after a long time single, that can be eye-opening in the best way. Another benefit, this is one Cindy Gallop talks about often, is that watching real sex can help you let go of unrealistic expectations. Traditional adult films are often staged with younger bodies, perfect lighting, and a pace that doesn't match reality. That can leave people feeling less than if they can measure up to what's on the screen. But when you see real couples of all ages, body types, and abilities, you start to understand that intimacy is not about performance. It's about connection. It's about finding what feels good for you and your partner, not living up to a script someone else wrote. This is especially important as we age, because our bodies naturally change. Men may take longer to get or maintain an erection. Women may need more time, more lubrication, or different types of touch to feel aroused. That's normal. Seeing other people navigating these changes with patience and creativity can be incredibly reassuring. It tells you you're not broken. You're just in a new chapter, and it can still be wonderful. And there's another layer to this. It can strengthen communication with your partner. Sometimes it's hard to put into words what you want, especially if you've never said it before. But when you watch something together and see something you like, it can be a gentle way to say, "That looks nice. What do you think about trying it?" Suddenly, you're not making demands or criticisms. You're inviting your partner into an experience with you. That kind of shared curiosity can bring couples closer, emotionally as well as physically. Of course, this doesn't mean you have to sit down and watch with someone else. You might choose to explore on your own first, to see how it makes you feel and what sparks your interest. For some people, this solo exploration becomes a safe space to rediscover their own desires without the pressure of performing for anyone else. And that self-awareness can make partnered intimacy even better later on. One thing I want to be clear about: watching real sex is not about replacing real-life intimacy. It's not a substitute for touch, affection, or conversation. Instead, think of it as a spice rack. You don't eat a jar of cinnamon by itself. but a sprinkle in the right recipe can transform the dish. The same goes for intimacy. Sometimes, seeing something new or different can inspire you to add a little variety to your own experience, and that's where the real benefit comes in. It can also be empowering in a way you might not expect. Many people, especially those over 60, carry silent worries about whether they're still attractive or desirable. Watching people with bodies that look more like yours, being fully engaged and desired, can be a reminder that beauty, sensuality, and passion are not reserved for the young. They're available to all of us at every stage of life if we give ourselves permission to embrace them. When you start to see intimacy as something that evolves rather than something that fades away, a whole new world opens up. And whether you're in a relationship or on your own, understanding and owning your sexuality can bring a confidence that touches every area of your life, from how you carry yourself to how you engage with the world. Now that we've opened the door to why watching real sex, authentic, unpolished, human intimacy can be so surprisingly beneficial, let's go deeper into how it can improve not just your knowledge and confidence, but your overall quality of life. One of the most profound shifts that can happen when you watch real, authentic intimacy is how it affects your relationship with your own body. As we age, it's so easy to become critical of ourselves. Maybe you notice more wrinkles, a softer belly, or changes in how your body moves and responds. These thoughts can quietly chip away at your confidence, sometimes so subtly you don't even realize it's happening. But when you see people with similar bodies, mature bodies, lived-in bodies, enjoying deep pleasure and giving pleasure in return, it can be like a light switching on. You start to realize that your body doesn't have to look like it did at 25 to be desirable. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. And that realization can feel incredibly freeing. For some people, this shift opens the door to reconnecting with pleasure in ways they hadn't considered before. Maybe you've avoided certain positions or activities because you assumed they weren't for you anymore. Or maybe you've just gotten into the habit of keeping things quick and familiar, thinking that's the only way it can work now. Seeing others explore slowly, laugh through awkward moments, or adapt things to suit their needs can inspire you to be more playful, more experimental, and more patient with yourself and your partner. And let's not forget about the emotional intimacy this can build in a relationship. Many couples, especially those who've been together for decades, find themselves in a rhythm that's comfortable but predictable. There's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes predictability can turn into a kind of quiet distance. Watching something together can create a shared spark, a moment where you look at each other and think, let's try that, or that actually looks fun. It's not about copying everything you sit. It's about letting the experience be a conversation starter. This can be especially valuable if you've struggled to talk openly about sex in the past. For many people in their 60s, 70s, or beyond, sex was never something discussed openly in their families or even among friends. The idea of telling your partner exactly what you want might still feel intimidating. But using a shared viewing experience as a bridge can make those conversations feel lighter and less confrontational. Instead of "I want you to do this differently," it becomes "what do you think about what they just did?" That's a much easier way to start. On a physical level, watching real sex can even have benefits you might not expect. For men, it can stimulate arousal and help with erectile function by increasing blood flow and engaging the mind in the erotic experience. For women, it can help stimulate natural lubrication and heighten sensitivity, especially if hormonal changes have made arousal take longer. The mind and body are deeply connected in sexual health, and engaging the imagination is just as important as physical touch. And there's another layer that's often overlooked: mental well-being. Sexuality is a key part of overall quality of life, and when it's neglected or dismissed, it can lead to feelings of loneliness, frustration, or even depression. Watching real, consensual intimacy can be a way of reawakening that part of yourself. It reminds you that pleasure, connection, and desire are still part of your story, no matter your age. I've spoken to people who said that simply seeing others express passion without shame encouraged them to be more affectionate in their daily lives, holding hands, touching a partner's shoulder, or kissing longer than usual. These small acts add up. They can strengthen your bond and make you feel more connected, which in turn makes intimacy feel more natural when the moment arises. There is also something quietly powerful about seeing diverse examples of intimacy, not just in body types or ages, but in styles of connection. Some couples are tender and slow. Others are playful and teasing. Some laugh, some moan, some barely speak but communicate everything through touch. Watching these moments unfold can remind you that there is no single right way to be intimate. The right way is the one that feels authentic to you and your partner. And if you're single, this isn't just for couples. Watching real sex can still be a way to understand your own desires better, so that when you do meet someone new, or even if you simply want to enjoy solo pleasure, you have a clearer idea of what excites you. That self-knowledge is valuable because it removes guesswork and replaces it with confidence. There is one more surprising benefit I think is worth talking about: breaking the silence around sexuality in later life. The more we acknowledge and normalize it, the less isolated people feel. Too often, older adults assume they're the only ones still thinking about sex or wanting more from their intimate life. But when you see with your own eyes that others your age are still exploring, still connecting, and still finding joy in physical closeness, it can make you feel part of something bigger. Community of people refusing to let age limit their pleasure. This is why I think what Cindy Gallop has been advocating for is so important. It's about reclaiming your right to pleasure, education, and honest representation at any age. Because when you give yourself permission to explore, you're not just enhancing your sex life, you're enhancing your life, period. Once you start to understand this and let go of the old scripts that tell you intimacy has to fade with age, you open yourself up to new ways of living, loving, and experiencing joy that can touch every part of your daily life. When you decide to explore watching real sex, it's worth approaching it with the same care and thoughtfulness you give to anything that could influence your well-being. This isn't about shocking yourself or diving into something that feels uncomfortable. It's about curiosity, openness, and finding what genuinely resonates with you. The first step is making sure the content you choose is authentic, ethical, and respectful. Real sex, as Cindy Gallop often emphasizes, isn't about exploitation, it's about representation. That means the people involved are consenting adults. They're comfortable with what's happening, and they're portraying genuine connection, not a scripted performance meant to fit unrealistic fantasies. There are platforms and creators dedicated to this kind of work, and finding them can make all the difference in how positive the experience feels. Once you've found something that feels genuine, give yourself permission to engage with it without judgment. This isn't a test, and there's no right reaction you're supposed to have. You might feel curiosity, excitement, even a little awkwardness. That's perfectly normal. Many people over 60 were raised in environments where sexual exploration was either private, unspoken, or outright discouraged. Shifting that mindset takes time. The key is to stay open and treat this as an opportunity to learn more about yourself and, if you're partnered, about each other. If you're in a relationship, think about how to share this exploration in a way that feels safe for both of you. You might start by talking about it outside the bedroom, over coffee, or during a walk, to take the pressure off. You could share your reasons. Maybe you want to bring back a sense of playfulness. Or maybe you want to find new ideas that work with your bodies as they are now. Framing it as an adventure you're taking together can make it feel exciting rather than intimidating. And if your partner is hesitant, that's okay. You can still explore on your own first. Sometimes, when someone sees how comfortable and confident you've become, their curiosity grows naturally. The important thing is not to push or force the experience, but to invite them in when the time feels right. For those who are single, this kind of exploration can be just as enriching. It can help you build a deeper relationship with yourself, understanding what kinds of touch, pacing, or connection feel most satisfying to you. That knowledge can empower you to communicate clearly if and when you meet someone new. But it can also simply make solo pleasure more fulfilling. One of the most overlooked benefits of watching real sex, especially in later life, is how it can help keep your sexual energy alive. Sexual health isn't just about reproduction, it's tied to circulation, hormone balance, mental health, and even immune function. Staying engaged with your sexuality, whether through partnered intimacy or solo exploration, can support your overall health in ways we're only beginning to fully understand. And let's not underestimate the emotional ripple effect. When you feel more in touch with your desires, you often carry yourself differently. There's a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you're still vibrant, still capable of pleasure, still willing to explore. That confidence can spill over into how you interact with friends, family, and the world at large. You may find yourself smiling more, moving with more ease, or feeling a little spark of excitement when you wake up in the morning. This is the heart of what Cindy Gallop and others are trying to shine a light on. That embracing your sexuality at any age is not something to hide. It's something to celebrate. It's not about competing with youth or chasing an old version of yourself. It's about honoring who you are right now, in the body you have, with all the wisdom, experience, and self-awareness you've gained over the years. Of course, watching real sex isn't going to solve every intimacy issue on its own. It's a tool, one that works best when combined with honest communication, mutual respect, and a willingness to keep exploring. Whether it leads you to try something new, to rekindle closeness with a partner, or simply to see yourself in a more positive light, its real power lies in the way it can expand your sense of possibility. So, as you think about your own intimate life, whether it's active, paused, or somewhere in between, consider giving yourself permission to be curious. Step away from the idea that certain experiences are off limits just because of your age. Explore in ways that feel safe, uplifting, and respectful to yourself and others. Because here's the truth. There's no age limit on pleasure, no expiration date on desire, and no reason you can keep discovering new ways to connect, whether that's with a partner, with yourself, or simply with the idea that intimacy is still a living, breathing part of your life. If you found this conversation eye-opening or even a little bit freeing, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your experiences, your hesitations, or your questions in the comments below. You never know who might feel less alone because of what you share. And if you'd like more honest, open discussions about intimacy, health, and happiness after 60, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Here's to staying curious, staying connected, and celebrating every stage of life with all the joy, passion, and confidence you deserve.